After Saturday's loss to Wisconsin, the question remains, does Northwestern have a quarterback battle again? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Northwestern, your daily podcast on the Northwestern Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. This is Locked On Northwestern, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen every day. We really appreciate it as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. You know, your team every day. And that's what we try to provide you here with Locked On Northwestern. We want to be your source for anything and everything Northwestern. And we're available wherever you get podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. You can find us there. You can also find us on YouTube. Just search Locked On Northwestern, and you can find us there. Make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications wherever you're listening. Make sure you leave a comment and a review. We would love to get your feedback and make this show the best that we can. Well, we obviously have recapped the bloodbath that was Saturday when Northwestern fell 42-7 on homecoming at home to Wisconsin. Well, I came out of the game and I had a question, and I went back and I listened to Fitz's presser, and I listened to Brendan Sullivan's presser post game, and I kind of came out of it with that question being even stronger, and that's, does Northwestern have a quarterback battle? You saw both guys get in the game. You saw Ryan Hilinski, the guy who started every game to this point. He started again. Brendan Sullivan came into the first half. Granted, Ryan Hilinski left the game in the second half with a concussion. He's in the concussion protocol right now. And Brendan Sullivan got most of the second half. But it was I couldn't help but notice the fact that Brendan Sullivan got some run there in the first half. And when you listen to Fitz talk about it this after the game and this presser, it kind of made you think that this is a move that's kind of been thought about for a few weeks now. I mean, when asked about it, he said, look, quarterbacks are evaluated on wins. And, you know, their play, or sometimes the negative plays, they're exacerbated when you don't win. And you can be more critical when a guy does not win. He talked about how he sat up there before and he said guys play bad but win games. And he just evaluates them off wins for the most part. And you have the media criticizing guys, but I mean, they're winning games. Well, right now, Northwestern's not winning games. He said that these quarterbacks have to be better at their jobs. They have to do their jobs. They have to have – the offense has to have balance to help them. Because right now they can't run the football. But then he started talking about Brendan Sullivan, and that's where I thought it got interesting. Was he really noted that Brendan Sullivan really settled in over the course of this game on Saturday. Look, he said early on he looked like a first-timer out there. He really did. And but as the game went on, he started to trust his ability at the quarterback position, trust his talent, trust the gifts that he has as a dual threat quarterback. And the plan was always to get him in for the third series. Fitz did say that he was disappointed that that third series was coming off a turnover. He said it wasn't a benching or anything. It was the plan coming in. And he said that, look, they were looking for a spark with the offense. And then, you know, 3 and outs later, and they go back to Ryan, and Ryan goes for a little bit, and then he gets banged up, and Brendan Sullivan gets back in there in the second half, and the second half was better. It really was. And he said that, look, I mean, I think there's some things to build off. I really do. And I concur with that. I mean, I thought there were some interesting things that Brendan Sullivan had. He did say Ryan Hilinski is in the concussion protocol, but look, I mean, he wanted to play both guys, and both guys were fine with it, and they told him in the middle of the week, and both guys just want to win, and so that's kind of what went into the decision. You saw both. One was obviously more effective than the other. Hilinski on Saturday was 10 of 22 for 147 yards and had 2 interceptions. Not a very good performance. That's the third time in 4 games, and we'll talk more about that later, that he hasn't looked too sharp. Brendan Sullivan, on the other hand, 11 of 17, 114 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, but added 10 carries for 33 yards on the ground. Hilinski only added a single carry for 3 yards. It was interesting. And then the more you listen to them talk about the game, the more you notice that this might just be the progression. And so I think that now you're legitimately talking about a quarterback battle here. And Brendan Sullivan, he got to talk on the mic after the game, and he got to talk about, look, I mean, this was prep. This was prep. He was ready to go. He preps every single week to be the starter, even though he is the backup. And then Thursday, he got told he'd get a series, and it was his first action out there. And he kind of echoed Fitz. He said, "Look, early on, kind of running around like a chicken with my head cut off back there, but it was awesome. It was fun to get out there for the first action." And as he gained the in-game experience, he started to settle in. He started to play better. That third quarter was really when he settled in. He also said that the first called run that they had for him was to have him get hit because he hadn't been hit in 2 years. But after he settled in, I mean, I think he said he's pretty confident moving forward, and I think he believes in his ability to if he has to lead this team. And look, he said there's no ill will between him and Ryan. He said Ryan's a great guy, that Brendan pushed Ryan all off season, and Ryan pushed him, and they make each other better. I mean, he said that Ryan's somebody who teaches him stuff. He picks Ryan's brain because Ryan's been in the SEC and the Big Ten. But I mean, he's also Brendan's focusing on himself. I mean, during this bye, he's going to try to watch film, break down what he can do better. He did miss some opportunities, and he's going to evaluate himself. And I'm interested to see what Northwestern does. And kind of with that, here in a second, we're going to take a look at these two guys, kind of who they are, where they come from, their status as recruits, what they've done to this point. But first, let's talk about our friends at Upside. From cringing at the pump to getting an eye-popping check at your favorite restaurant, inflation is hitting us all where it hurts, and it really, really hurts. That's why I started using Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, dines out, or anything else really. With every purchase, I'm earning cash back thanks to Upside. Upside is something that has been huge for me as I've moved to where I live, doing my radio show during the day. It's been a great tool to help save money in my new place. To get started, download the free Upside app, use my promo code LOCKED, and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Next, claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. Check in at the business, pay as usual with a credit or debit card, and get paid. In comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times more cash back with Upside. Upside users are earning more than $1 million every week. That's probably why Upside has a 4.8 rating on the App Store. Download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCK to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code LOCKED. All right. Let's dive into this now that we've heard from our friends at Upside. Let's kind of talk about this quarterback competition, this battle that I do think is going to rage during this bye week. And we're going to start with the starter. Look, it's number 3, Ryan Hilinski. Is the guy you've seen out there all year long. He's junior, 6'3", 225-pound guy out of Orange, California. Highly rated guy out of high school. 4-star in the 2019 class. Way up there. The number 64 national player in the country. The number 2 pro-style quarterback, and the number 12 player in the state of California. Out of high school, he enrolled at South Carolina. His freshman year, he saw significant action thanks to the injury to the then starting quarterback, Jake Bentley. He was 236 of 406 for a 58.1% completion percentage, threw for 2,357 yards, 5.8 yards per attempt, 10 yards per completion, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, had a passer rating of 113.4 in that season. The next year, in 2020, his sophomore season, did not see much action. 4 for 6, obviously a 66.7% completion percentage, 34 yards, 5.7 yards per attempt, 8.5 yards per completion, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 114.3 passer rating that season. Then Ryan Hilinski enters the transfer portal, comes to Northwestern, and in his second sophomore year at Northwestern, he was 95 of 176, 54% completion percentage, 978 yards, 5.6 yards per attempt, 10.3 yards per completion, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 101.7 passer rating. Not exactly the year you were expecting out of him in year 1 at Northwestern, but I mean, you listen to him talk this offseason. There were some aspects of the fact that he had yet to be in a system for 2 straight years, had change up at offensive coordinators always. Was not a great year last season by any stretch. This season, his junior year, 141 of 244 passes, 57.8% completion percentage, 1,576 yards, 6.5 yards per attempt, 11.2 yards per completion, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 115.2 passer rating. The issue there, and we're going to talk about it here in a second, he's thrown a lot of interceptions recently. For his career, though, 476 for 832, 57.2% completion percentage, 4,945 yards, 5.9 yards per attempt, 10.4 yards per completion, 20 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, 111.5 passer rating. Look, I mean, he started this season strong. You saw a glimpse of what he can be when he has time, when he's comfortable back there, when he's delivering the ball on time and on target, when he's calm back there. And he had some strong performances out the gate. I mean, I think 2 of his first 3 performances were very, very solid. Well, then he has 3 bad performances in the last 4 games. Really, his first 2 performances were solid, and then his performance against Miami of Ohio was fine. But he's had some rough performances here in the last few games. 3 rough performances in his last 4 games. 5 interceptions in those 4 games as well, to just 2 touchdown passes. It's been a very, very, very up and down kind of road for him this season. At his best, he looks really, really good. But that's the thing, is that his best is just not. It's not. You don't know if it's going to be out there every Saturday right now. And part of that is the fact that the offense has sputtered so much down the stretch here that there's just not really a great flow. The other competitor in this competition, Brendan Sullivan, sophomore, number 10 out there 6'3", 212 pounds, out of Davison, Michigan. Dual threat guy, 3-star in the 2021 class coming out of high school. Number 697 national player in the country. Number 49 quarterback in the class. Number 17 player in the state of Michigan. Got his first action on Saturday. 11 of 17, 64.7% completion percentage, 114 yards, 1 touchdown, 6.7 yards per attempt, 10.4 yards per completion, 0 interceptions, 10 carries for 33 yards, but did have a fumble. So it was not ideal in that aspect. But you saw some flashes. You really did, especially once he settled in. The fact that he's near 65% completion percentage against that Wisconsin defense showed me something. And I know it wasn't pushing the ball down the field like crazy, though he did have a beautiful ball, beautiful monster rip up the right sideline with it. I mean, honestly, it was a phenomenal throw to Bryce Kurtz for on a play that I'm not sure Ryan Hilinski can make that throw the way Brendan Sullivan did. So you saw a flash of what the ceiling can be. But really, once he settled in, once he started using his legs effectively, I mean, I thought he played pretty well. On the other side, Hilinski, close on several throws, almost had several different attempts at a touchdown, but was fairly inconsistent. Below 50% completion for the second straight game. That 10 of 22, 45.5% completion percentage, 147 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, 1 rush for 3 yards. Both picks were bad decisions and bad throws. One was just a total misread. He had a much shorter throw that I thought if he throws it to the inside, pick up the first down, move the chains. Instead, he tried to rip one towards the goal line, pick going the other way, kill the drive. Just one of those opportunities that Northwestern had where they were moving the football, got into plus territory, got into the red zone, and did not convert. Obviously, on that second interception, I think he took a big hit and ended up leaving the game with a concussion. He's in the concussion protocol right now. But those are kind of the two guys in this battle, how they performed on Saturday. And then in a second here, we're just gonna take a look at what I'm just gonna give my unfiltered thoughts on it and what I think Northwestern should do, how I see it potentially playing out, and and how this plays out over the bye week. But first, let's talk about our partners at Nissan. Nissan has worked with us to create a new segment across the Locked On College Network titled Thrilling Moments, where we highlight the most exciting play from the Northwestern weekend game or throughout the history of our alma mater. This week's thrilling moment from the Wildcats is that Brendan Sullivan rip to Bryce Kurtz down the right sideline from 41 yards. It was a beautiful ball that, honestly, I am just not sure if he could go hand the ball to him better. It was super tight coverage and just an absolute dime. Great catch by Bryce Kurtz. Really showed you something that maybe is something to build off, maybe something exciting. This segment has been inspired by the thrilling new designs featured across Nissan's new lineup of vehicles. Pursue what thrills you in the all-new Frontier, Armada, or Pathfinder today. Available now on NissanUSA.com. All right, let's just talk about these two guys right now. I think Ryan Hilinski, you've seen a better version of Ryan Hilinski this year. Early in the year, you saw, to be honest, a good version of Ryan Hilinski against Nebraska, against Duke, and to an extent against Miami of Ohio. But the issue is, starting with that Southern Illinois game, and that was just still the most puzzling performance for me for Ryan Hilinski on the season, because it's a defense he should be able to pass on. He should be able to put up huge numbers on. And he just looked uncomfortable. He looked rattled. He just did not play a very clean football game in that one at all. And it showed. I mean, it just was not It was not a pretty performance. He was 27 of 43, 213 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks in that one against a bad FCS pass defense. It was shocking to see just how rattled and uncomfortable he felt after looking very comfortable the first 2 weeks. And I think maybe that game left a seed of doubt because while he did somewhat bounce back against Miami of Ohio, Penn State in the rain, they didn't trust him to do anything with in the passing game. I mean, he barely threw the ball early. Late, he had to throw the ball a bunch. 15 of 37, 210 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. In the rain, you can excuse a little bit, but it's still not a good performance. And then brings you to this past week, that 10 of 22, 2 interceptions, 147 yards. It's just not good enough. It's frustrating to say because you've seen the flashes of what he can be and that consistency over 4 quarters against teams like Nebraska, against Duke. And I don't really, for me, understand why that confidence has gone away. Maybe it is the fact that losses have started to stack up, that a pick or two started to kind of bleed in there, and then all of a sudden 1 pick turned to 2 picks the next week and turned to more picks down the road. Now you're sitting here 6 touchdowns, 6 picks. That I just didn't think with the way that he started the year we'd be sitting in that situation at all. I thought he looked really, really, really strong. And the other issue is under Ryan Hilinski, the offense has gone stone cold silent. Stone cold silent. And it's just not, there's no balance. I don't feel like teams are respecting the pass really. And as a result, you have Evan Hull, your best player, stifled in the run game a few times now. You have Cam Porter, the backup, can't really get going at all. And you have these weapons on the outside that don't get consistent targets, and pass game isn't consistent. The offense doesn't do a lot, and the defense all of a sudden is under a lot of pressure. And you start to rack up some losses, and it starts to feel like things are going off the rails a little bit. Well, Brendan Sullivan comes in the second half in a game where you just, for whatever reason, could not punch the ball in the end zone. And once he settled in, I thought he looked pretty solid. I thought he was delivering the ball pretty well. Save one strip sack where he loses the football and Wisconsin recovers. Thought he protected the football decently well, better than Hilinski did in that game on Saturday. Used his I think that brings a different dynamic. And then I keep coming back to that ball that we saw him throw to Bryce Kurtz. If that can consistently be the guy who Brendan Sullivan is, he might be your guy. And this week, I know it's the bye week. They're going to be practicing. I know it's exam week. Fitz mentioned it. Midterm week. With that in mind, I think this week is Brendan Sullivan's chance to go and take this job. And I think adding some dynamic nature at the quarterback position where Brendan Sullivan can run, that he is a dual threat kind of guy, that allows you to kind of equalize some of the talent deficiencies your offense has going against some of the defenses you're going to see. I mean, I truly believe a dual threat quarterback is the best equalizer in a game where you are outmatched talent-wise and athlete-wise. So I think moving forward, you're going to see a change at quarterback. That's just my gut. I think that the fact that they were looking to give him some series in this game right before the bye week, then he's going to go into the bye for He's going to have 2 weeks to basically prep. I wouldn't be shocked if the first quarterback you see running out on the field a couple Saturdays from now, if that is Brendan Sullivan. Would not be shocked at all at Maryland to see him take the first snaps of that game. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I think this was, and you hate it for Hilinski because he could have very much shown that he's up to the task and he was going to retain his job in that second half. But he goes down with a concussion. It's an opportunity now for Brendan Sullivan to get reps with the ones. Does he seize the moment? Does he take that job? I think he does. Listening to his post-game interview, there is an air of confidence in him that is kind of funny to me. But it's what you want out of your quarterback. It's what you want out of your quarterback. And I think that he might be the guy moving forward for Northwestern. And so I do think that there is very much a quarterback battle going on, a quarterback competition, and I think something's got to change with the offense because they need to score points. And I think right now, Brendan Sullivan might give this Northwestern a chance to score points more consistently than with Ryan Hilinski, because Ryan Hilinski he hasn't been that guy that we've seen in the first 2 weeks. And you hate to say that. I'm just surprised that it has played out the way that it has. That's probably going to do it for today's episode. We'll be back tomorrow with another one. Talking about the future of the Northwestern program, either that or the rest of the season, those types of things. But want to thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen every day for anything and everything Northwestern. We're available wherever you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. We're also on YouTube. Just search Locked On Northwestern. Make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications wherever you listen. Don't want to miss any of these episodes. Make sure you leave a comment. Make sure you leave a review. We want to get your feedback. We want to make this show as good as we can. Also, as Big Ten fans, we all need to know what our teams are up against across the Big Ten with Locked On Big Ten. Every day, host Nate Dickinson and the local experts of Locked On take you across the Big Ten in 30 minutes. Make Locked On Big Ten your second listen, after Locked On Northwestern, of course, Locked On Big Ten. All right, well, thank y'all for tuning in. I will see you all tomorrow. Peace.